Okay, let's take a look at passage 3. As usual, read it over, decide if it contains an argument or not, pause the video, make that decision, come back when you're ready. Okay, I'm thinking argument, right? And as usual, first step, let's see if we can find the ultimate conclusion. Again, read it over, think about what the conclusion is, pause the video, decide, come back when you're ready. Okay, I think that the conclusion is stated, and I think that the conclusion here is universities should not offer philosophy courses, right? Super. Okay, so now, back to the top. Either philosophy helps individuals or it has no use at all. Is that an important claim in the argument? And if so, should we chop it into parts? Think about that for a moment. Pause the video, come back when you're ready. Okay, what do you think? Well, first of all, I'm going to take the second question I asked first. Can we divide ors into their parts? No, we can't. When we have an or statement, we are not necessarily asserting each individual part of that or statement. Like, I'm not saying here that philosophy helps individuals. I'm not saying that it has no use at all. I'm just saying one or the other. So or statements don't assert their parts, which is why they have to stay together. Now, is this an important part of the argument? It's tempting to say no, because I think that often people think that or statements aren't really saying anything, or at least nothing substantive, so they can't really be part of an argument. That's not true, though. I mean, suppose that I'm invited to a potluck eventually, once I can be invited to such things. And someone says, what are you going to bring? And I say, well, I'm either going to bring a salad or I'm going to bring a dessert. Now, I haven't told you specifically what I'm going to bring, but I have given you some information. You know, for instance, that I'm not going to bring a main course. I'm going to bring either a salad or a dessert. So or statements can be genuinely informative. So they can play a part in an argument, and this one does. So either philosophy helps individuals or it has no use at all. And once we see the part that it plays, it's going to be a lot easier to see why or statements can work in an argument. Now we continue. Philosophy doesn't help individuals, though, since it just confuses people. Okay. Now, is that going to be an important claim? Yes. How many claims in that sentence? Think about that. Would you divide that sentence into two, or would you keep that as all one? Pause the video, think about that, come back when you're ready. Divide, right? Because of the since. The since is an inference indicator expression. That's really important. We have to divide around inference indicators, because if we don't, we can't represent the inference. And if we can't represent the inference, well, then we can't understand the argument. Now, though, I'm kind of faced with the dilemma. Should I figure out how 2 is related to 3? Because remember, all along I've been saying, only think about 2 things at a time. Try to only think about 2 things at a time. Or should I take care of that since first and ask how 3 is related to 4? You might want to go back to the beginning, to that procedure, take a look at that, and decide what we should do. Pause the video, come back when you're ready. Okay, let's go take a look. Go way, way back. Let's see. Continue through the argument, asking what else is being claimed and is this claim part as an argument. Stop as soon as you have identified a claim that's part of the argument, unless you see an inference indicator expression, in which case you should represent that relationship right away. Inference indicators trump. So, because I see that since, I want to represent the relationship between 3 and 4 before I worry about how that's related to 2. So think about that. How is 3 related to 4? Is it going to be with an inference arrow, with the plus, or separate arrows? Decide that. Pause the video, map that relationship, and come back when you're ready. Okay, what do you think? 3 since 4. Since is an inference indicator, so 4 is a reason to believe that 3 is true. So let us map that. We want to go back to blue again, because I like blue. 4 is a reason to believe 3. Three since 4. Now what that does is that tells us that that's a unit, the 4, 3 bit. Now we can ask, how is 2 related to that? What do you think? With an arrow, with the plus, or separate? Pause the video, decide, come back when you're ready. Okay, I'm thinking with a plus, right? I think that 2 should be added. So added to what, though? Let's try 3. Would something follow from that? The reason I'm saying let's try 3 is it's a good rule of thumb. 2 and 3 are next to each other. They might be added. And there's another reason too that we'll be seeing. Either philosophy helps individuals or it has no use at all. Philosophy doesn't help individuals. Can we think about what follows from that? Can you see what follows? Remember, the rule now is as soon as we've added 2 things together, right then, before we continue reading, ask what follows. See if you can figure that out. Pause for a minute. Come back when you're ready. Okay, what do you think? What do we get from 3 and 4? Sorry about that. What do we get from 3 and 4? 2 and 3 rather. 2 plus 3 gives us what? Well, either philosophy helps individuals or it doesn't have any use. But guess what? It doesn't help individuals. So let's go back to that, that potluck example. Suppose I say, either I'm going to bring a salad or I'm going to bring a dessert. And then later on you ask me, have you decided? And I think, well, I'm not going to bring a salad, I tell you. Do you know what I'm going to bring? If I'm either going to bring a salad or a dessert and I'm not going to bring a salad, I must be going to bring a dessert, right? So either philosophy helps individuals or it has no use, but it doesn't help individuals. It must have no use then. Very good. Let's think about that inference form because that is going to be our next inference form. It has an or statement. This is the first inference form we've seen that has an or. P or Q. And then we're told, well, let's see. What were we told here? Either philosophy helps individuals, that's the P part, or it has no use at all, that's the Q part. Then we're told it doesn't help individuals, so that would be the opposite of the P part, right? Therefore, now we decided that we could conclude Q from that, right? Does that make sense? Either P or Q, either philosophy helps individuals or it has no use at all, but it doesn't help individuals, the opposite of P. Therefore, it has no use, Q. I think that works, but isn't it a bit confusing? Because before when we were looking at if-thens, we said that if we have if P then Q, and if we have the opposite of the front part, we can't do anything. So why doesn't that work here, right? Because we have something and then we have the opposite of the front part. But do we have an if-then? We don't. That rule of if you have an if-then and if you have the opposite of the front part, you're out of luck, that's for if-thens. This is not an if-then, this is an or, it's a whole different game. An or technically doesn't have a front part or a back part because order doesn't matter with ors. It does matter with if-thens, right? If Max is a poodle, then Max is a dog. That's true. But if Max is a dog, then Max is a poodle. That's false. Or matters with if-thens. Order matters with if-thens, but it doesn't with ors. If I say I'm either going to bring a salad or I'm going to bring a dessert, I could just as well say I'm either going to bring a dessert or I'm going to bring a salad. It doesn't matter. So there's really technically not really a front part of an or at all. Could I have done something else? What if I had this? Because ors can be flipped. Suppose I had P or Q, and then I'm told not the opposite of P, but the opposite of Q. Could I conclude something then? Think about that for a bit. Pause the video, come back when you're ready. I think I could, right? If I'm told, hey, I either have thing 1 or thing 2, and I'm saying I don't have thing 2, well, then I must have thing 1. If I either have P or Q, and I don't have Q, I must have P. That is our next inference form. It is valid. It's called a syllogism again, because it's valid. And it's called a disjunctive syllogism because or statements are often called disjunctions. That's the fancy name for an or statement. Good. So we have our next valid inference form. Well, we have concluded philosophy has no use via the disjunctive syllogism from 2 and 3. Now we just need to wonder, is that going to be a stated subconclusion or is it an unstated subconclusion? Let's take a look. Let's continue to read. Universities shouldn't offer courses in useless subjects. That's not the same thing as philosophy has no use, right? That's a different claim. So this subconclusion from 2 and 3, it's there, but it's unstated. It's a missing subconclusion. So I'm going to give it a letter, and then I know to have this be an A right there. Okay, now we've already identified 5. Philosophy shouldn't offer courses in useless subjects. How is that related to the 4, 3, 2A bit? With an arrow, with a plus, or with 2 separate arrows? Pause the video, think about that, come back when you're ready. I'm thinking at it, right? We take a look, universities shouldn't offer courses in useless subjects and philosophy has no use. In other words, it's a useless subject. I think something follows from that. I think it makes perfect sense to add those. So let's do that. A will be added to 5 right here. And now, as usual, we ask what follows. Okay. What follows from A plus 5? Well, philosophy is useless. Universities shouldn't offer courses in useless subjects. Seems like then universities shouldn't offer courses in philosophy. And behold, that's the ultimate conclusion. So I know that that actually is stated. I don't need to give that a letter. I can just say 1 right there. There we go. So that's a slightly more complicated one, but note the procedure is the same. We're figuring out here 2 claims. How are they related? If they are added right away, we ask what follows from them, and then we can use either the puzzle piece test or, if it fits a form, one of the inference forms. Very good. See you in passage 4.